Welcome to That Digital Take. I'm your host, Torri Webster. Today, I am joined by Rob Loschiavo, partner and vice president of Pomp Circumstance PR. And because two is better than one, I also have Megan Taylor, partner and senior vice president at Faulhaber Agency. These are two of the most respected forces in Canadian PR. And even though they run competing agencies, their friendship and collaboration is something I have always truly admired. So today, we're talking about press trips, we're talking about pitch decks, and the future of influencers with two PR icons. Rob and Megan are the names behind the scenes shaping what we see and trust online. And they're also my close personal friends, so I promise this will be a very zesty, fun episode. Rob and Megan, welcome to That Digital Take.
Hello, hello.
I'm so excited to have you guys here. Let's just jump right into it. So the state of modern PR. What I want to know first, how has the definition of PR evolved over the past 5 years? You guys have been in this industry forever. And what does it look like today in the age of TikTok and influencers and content 24/7? What has changed and how have you seen the dynamic change over the last decade that you guys have been doing this?
She came loaded.
Well, it's giving three questions in one.
I know. We got to dissect it one by one. I think the difference of where PR has been and what it is right now is the medium of which we consume our media. So, like, do you have cable?
No.
Exactly. So nobody's watching the news anymore, per se. People are consuming all of their media, all their news online. So something I like to say is the new 6 o'clock news is when you see it on your phone.
Oh, wow.
So when somebody's at an event, it's posted instantaneous, it's live, no scripting. It's kind of like in the moment, and that's when you're consuming it. So really PR has evolved to be in the moment. It's amplification, on demand, and that's really what people are consuming now.
When you started, was there a lot more pull? I know maybe you can answer this, but when you started, was there a lot more pull to that traditional TV? Like, were you working more on publication stuff? Like, when did that change?
I actually think that there's still a cause for the other.
Okay.
Like, I think that's the concept of integration. Like, we offer a service where everything is like it's everything all in one. It's a 360. So it's digital marketing powered by PR. Like, I just think that one and the other, it's the lifestyle lens, the storytelling. Like, when I first started 16 years ago, we did this thing in Ireland called like a photo call, basically, where we would create the news. So we would bring people on behalf of a brand to a photo, have media come, like newspapers, whatever, take that photo, and then we would disseminate it. Like, it was kind of crazy. We were almost orchestrating everything. It was very press release driven. It was very much led by the brand. Whereas I think the difference is definitely the medium, for sure, where a lot of the new gen are consuming, and then the older generation obviously are still maybe tied up in the traditional and the broadcast and all that stuff. But I think now, it's more about how we tell the story and the fact that it's less so brand-led and more so consumer-led, in my opinion.
What is one assumption that you feel like people make about PR that you just want to nip in the bud, that you feel is like, there's probably a lot of them?
Where on the list do you want to start?
No, do you want to get on the list, actually?
Yeah. True.
Honestly, I think there's a glamorization of public relations that all we do is go out to events. I think everybody thinks that, but there is a lot of hard work. There's late nights.
Yeah.
There's being on call 24/7.
Totally.
Like,
I mean, I see that with you guys all the time. Like, it never really ends.
Like, I got into PR because I didn't really want to go to school anymore. Like, no, genuinely. At one point, I thought I was going to be a primary school teacher, and then I thought I was going to be a pediatrician. Like, I'm not going to work with kids the rest of my life.
Sure.
And B, I was like, Christ, then I have to go to school every day if I'm a teacher, and or B, I have to stay in school for a really long time to become a doctor. Neither of those two things are possible because I'm tapped out. So then I was watching The Hills. Come on.
Lauren
and
Conrad.
Natasha Bedingfield's song just sang in my ears, and I went to university for PR then. But yeah, I think that whole glamorization, the Kelly Cutrone era, I could see the elements of the hard work and like all the nonsense that went into the behind the scenes that people maybe don't today see, but there definitely was that element of, it's just gift of the gab.
And glamour.
It's this, it's that,
red
it's parties,
carpets,
it's influencers.
parties,
Even back then, the blogger influencers.
Sure.
And now, it's like, it's just not that. People come in with that perception that it's just going to be easy work and like you're going to go to parties all the time. You're going to get free stuff all the time.
No, literally. I remember I started my career doing Toronto Fashion Week, and you were working 14-hour days on your feet, Lunch was not a thing. Dinner was not a thing. You
God.
literally starved. It was amazing. You would lose so much
Were
weight
you an
that
intern?
week, but
It was amazing.
Skinny talk.
Skinny
Never.
talk, skinny talk.
Did you do an internship?
yeah, I volunteered like for 2 years, basically 4 fashion seasons.
Did you
And like that was the gateway to getting to know everyone who needed to be on the list. Everyone that was front row, you had those names memorized.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Like like networking today is just not a thing.
No, it's let me check you out on Instagram and then follow you.
Nobody wants to go and mingle in person anymore. Like, and I was like, I'm so surprised by the fact that people just don't know how to do that.
Right.
Like, nobody wants to raise their hand and be like, oh, I'll go to that event and I'll meet those people and I'll see what's going on. And
You're talking about like staff.
Yeah. But do you know what else though? Like actually influencers.
Yeah.
They don't go alone anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody always needs a +1. And I think COVID messed everybody up because we're really 5 years later, it's still only now getting back to the place of let's have an event in person, let's have an in-office experience where
sure.
you're there 4 or 5 days a week, whatever it might be. And people who are in our industry, managers with 5 years experience, have only ever had those experiences from behind the scenes of a computer. And then influencers who blew up overnight on this new platform of TikTok they don't know how to manage their channel, meet PR people, meet brands, meet other creators and learn from them. There's no camaraderie in a way that's like
There's no relationship building.
and relationships are at the core of what we do, I would say.
When you look at, we were all at an event last week, for a new art fair that was opening, the Artist Project, and literally, while we were walking through the aisles, like every other person I was running into, because like that's the relationship, that's the relationships you build in PR. It's all in the relationships, and you're quite literally your calling card. That is your Rolodex, for everything that you do. So while we work in this like new modern digital world where Instagram and TikTok kind of like reign supreme, that old school world of PR still has a complete place, and our relationships are our entirety.
Yeah. That's what I mean about how it's changed in terms of like, I would say the core component is that we're consumer led, not brand led, in the sense that brands aren't crafting the stories anymore that only speak to them. They're taking their head from influence or from the community of consumers.
Right.
And responding to a need, a desire, the fact that stats are people need to know where the brands are from, what they stand for, like all that stuff is way more important today.
Right.
But it's the core hasn't changed. Like relationships are paramount. Networking is everything. Like I think that there is a place for the different forms of media type and like that concept of integration. But all of that stuff, the core principles, I think are so important still today to tell brand stories.
Talk a little bit about what the last couple years have meant with TikTok, with the rise of influencer, because that was not, I mean, it was relevant to you when you guys started in the sense that it was celebrity, but then came this new wave of digital first creators. What does that mean for you guys as the head of agencies now navigating basically the Wild West, like when it comes to influencer partnerships and influencer press trips and things like that? What has been like one big takeaway of navigating that new, I guess, like shift in the industry?
I would say the storytelling has become much more rich and authentic.
Oh, that's positive. I thought maybe everyone would take a negative spin on this.
No, and I think
but that's good.
I think especially with platforms like TikTok, where authenticity quite literally is the purpose of the platform.
Yeah.
I feel like in PR we're always crafting stories, and obviously there is an element of influencer partnerships that are pay to play.
Yeah.
I think we're all familiar with that.
Yeah.
And there's a transparency in that now, which is great. But I do think that, authentic storytelling and brands can truly connect with people that are living everyday lives on the platform, sharing, and you're able to truly integrate your brand with an influencer because it's raw, unfiltered, and all these new creators are literally popping up left, right, and center across the platform. So I do feel like it just offers richer storytelling for our brands that we're working with, and I assume it'd be the same for you.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same. I do think there is a slight amount of the new wave of creators not knowing how to
their ass from their elbow.
Yeah, basically. That's quite a nice way to say it. No, I just think like people have just come up overnight and they don't understand business acumen.
Yeah, it's way too fast.
Yeah. And so I don't know if you guys see this, but like people who have 0 followers asking for the same price of money for payments as people with 3 or 4 or 5 times their followers. Yeah. People who have never worked a day in their life with you to build a relationship, wanting like a firm rate on something, not understanding that you could maybe walk before you can crawl, or crawl before you can walk, and like build that relationship, do the organic posts. I've also said this to you so much in our relationship, in the concept of back in the day, if you think about media, like you would have had a magazine, and the magazine has advertisements, and the magazine has organic content. And if you want to consider yourself a publication that competes with media, who is, you know, in and around this world, wanting the first scoop at product launches, wanting to be the person who's attending an event, going to a press junket, meeting a founder, meeting a celebrity, then you have to build your brand and your business the same way that those publications do. And you know what I'm saying? Isn't
Snaps
that
for
like
that.
No,
So true.
100%.
and like people just don't understand that. And listen,
But break it down, because you always have a nice way to do it. You say,
but
like
then
a magazine.
Exactly. So you build your personal brand like an editorial publication where you have paid for play, for sure. Like it's a business. We're not out here flipping paying for our mortgage with hair product. But then by the same token, you have to also be able to have that organic content, because that's what makes you credible and authentic, and building of a community, and et cetera, et cetera. And I just think, like, I had a train of thought there. I was going to say something.
You always say like editorial content
No, 'cause
versus advertorial content.
Oh, fuck, I don't know now. But you just said something there that made me, like, after the snaps, because, yeah, I just think, like, right now people don't understand that, and they just
that's where it came from.
steamroll.
Strategy, like basic strategy doesn't always exist for these younger creators,
And they just steamroll in. And you know, honestly, some older creators do it too. People who've been around for a really long time, they build their brand on something so specific, and they're like, oh, I can't do X without doing Y. I only do long-term partnerships. Like, you can't die on the hill for that. If it's a brand you're passionate about, I think there has to be.
You can't see it, but I'm rolling my eyes to the back of my head at the long-term partnerships.
right?
Yeah.
We all want long-term partnerships.
Yeah, doesn't everyone? Doesn't agencies?
Isn't
don't
it crazy?
Like,
What's like, it's like we would want a retainer for 2-3 years, whatever. Like, oh my God, of course we would.
Yeah,
if we love a brand, we want to work with them for a lifetime. Like, we've had clients for 13 years.
Right.
Sign me up. Like, you know where your next paycheck's coming from. Like, let's be realistic. We're all in business. But yeah, like, it doesn't work for brands.
Like it is a bit. Like, is that kind of the thing? Like,
don't you just find though, sometimes people are like, we want a long-term partnership. We're only going to do this if it's 1 year, if it's 1 year term. And then the exclusivity and all the things that come out the back end of that are just pointless. Like, do you actually believe in long-term partnerships? Like,
I believe in the authenticity and the storytelling behind a long-term partnership. But to your point about when you're giving the analogy about editorial magazine and pay to play and editorial, the same thing happens with a partnership. You need to give and take.
yeah,
You can't just expect a 1-year contract
Agreed.
and you've never shown the brand an ounce of love.
right, exactly.
there needs to be that organic integration, or else why would it even make sense to the audience that it's constantly being brought up?
100%. My favorite thing is having a creator at the table. I think that is the biggest advantage to working with influencers in 2025 and beyond. They need to have a seat at the table, be at the negotiating table, talk about what their content's going to be, but there also needs to be a sense of authenticity. So for some of my brands, it's like it might be a service or a product, but like if I'm just paying for your opinion, how is that authentic? I want to see you just integrate it in your everyday life. Maybe if it's a hair care product, you're just maybe like spritzing it before you're going out and you're talking about like what went into your hair that day. Versus like when you're doing paid content and you're like giving a complete breakdown of the product and its benefits. Like
I think if you've got tangible product versus services or experiences, like every single brand and creator should have a partnership where it's an unspoken rule for the first 2 or 3 weeks or however long that you have in a run-up time. Like, we can sometimes be working on the wire, but like that they are trying and using that product organically
Absolutely.
in there, and it's not considered one of 3 posts or whatever it is. Like, if I was trying to get you to figure out a new Moroccan oil product, like, I'd want you to use that product for as long as possible,
And like genuinely try it
and use
and
it, try it, and then collaborate on the paid partnership, whereby your followers have seen it, they understand it, and then that makes sense. It's also more authentically you. You're not following the press release notes. This is again my point on consumer-led, not brand-led. Like, the consumers don't care about what we have to say in a press release. Media still need that.
I can't even get started on the key messages. Like nobody is retaining these key messages. Like I used to be a key message queen.
How do you educate brands on that though? Because I think a lot of that's where the influencer can get into a tricky place, because like I've been in situations where either legal gets so involved that it ends up becoming almost like scripting because of the way that things have to be approved and or language needs to be vetted. Not always, and that's amazing when brands really get it and they let you have free reign, and fabulous. That's like what we live for. But like there are situations where the brand needs a little bit more education on like, hey, you kind of, if you're hiring these influencers, which kind of also leads into my next question, just like how do you vet and find the right influencers for those partnerships where you do trust them and you can say, I will give you creative freedom, but also educate the brands and saying, hey guys, like giving them 25 key messages is not necessarily going to translate into the best content.
Yeah.
Because it's like at odds with each other.
Part one to your question, I think like when you're distilling down key messages, like typically with a brand, there's like 4 to 5 key messages. It's like, you can spread that out. That's where it's over multiple pieces of content. But when you think about it, what is the single most important message? What do you need to relay in that one piece of content?
Yeah.
That's all the consumer is going to take away from that.
Yeah.
You get 1 to 3 seconds to captivate the audience in a video. That's literally what's going to be the hook, because we know hooks are super important with content.
Totally.
And then what's the one message you want that consumer to take away? The other messages are great for the influencer to have the background knowledge and to support the message. But you need one single key message to get across.
It's like, hey, here's 6 key messages. Make sure they're all integrated. And it's like, that's just impossible. To your point, what a dilution of the content, because if you focus on one thing perfectly, that'll be much clearer than trying to get 6 small little points across.
Well, totally. Then you're just making a full paid ad.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the brand comes back to you and wonders what doesn't perform. And then you're like, well, because it was literally an ad read without the paid boost that needs to go beside it to get the eyeballs.
Remember when we asked the creator to come in and help us form this this piece of content, and you just wanted to script the whole thing? Well,
totally.
Here's why it didn't perform.
Yeah. And it is
Hot
that
take.
No, but it's true. But is that an education? Like that ultimately doesn't land on you guys as agency.
We're responsible for the results. So
okay.
I think like there's a big education component. Like we are constantly making sure our clients are educated on the best forms of practice with working with influencers, working with media in today's day and age. But obviously there's a lot of politics with that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stakeholders, a lot of voices. So at the end of the day, we basically are always in a juggling act of appeasing the client, of pleasing stakeholders, business goals and business needs.
Fair.
And working with the creator to manage that all. So we're kind of all in this circus act together.
That's why if you have like the proper marketing mix where it's not just influencer relations or media or whatever the case may be, you're doing paid digital, you're doing influencer media, you're doing earned traditional media, potentially even paid traditional media. You've got that full network and proper mix of components where your brand messages can live in different places. Like, you know, the earned traditional media might be a place where you can take it to a founder level, go behind the scenes, do like, you know, press junkets, get that real in-depth storytelling opportunity that goes right back to basics on ingredients and, you know, whatever the case may be in terms of what you're selling. Then you've got the influencer play, which maybe connects more with the consumers, has the direct link to purchase, like has that more community feel. And then your paid ads are where you're bringing that, you know, marketing message to life through the, you know, the medium in which you choose, whether that's broadcast, online, billboard, whatever the case may be. And so I think that in and of itself is what we try and do. And I'm very sure they're the exact same in terms of how you position that to clients. And it's so important not to just lean on one side. And so I think that's, again, how PR has evolved, because we used to wear that maybe only one hat in the media world where it was events and media, and now public relations is no longer that. It's also this slew of paid media and
so much digital,
out of home and digital and all the rest of it. And that's,
I completely agree with that, actually. I think a big thing that influencers...
Oh, you sound shocked.
No, I completely agree with that. I think it's a very
Megan.
important thing that we should put a fine tune on. What's the word?
A pin on?
A ring? Put a ring on?
We're not going to put no rings on today.
Hey.
But I do think it's an important conversation, because I think especially for the influencer community, they don't see the 360 efforts that go behind something. They're just like, well, why aren't you paying me?
Right.
Or like, why don't you give me more money? Or like, they don't realize we're managing an entire budget against a 360 marketing model for a client. It's paid media, it's experiential and events. Like,
it's so much. Can we talk about that a little bit? Because I think that's something people are really curious about, which is like, influencer rates fall under this, but almost to that point, like how has because you guys are managing this 360 budget, which once was more led to be for the publications and for event purposes, is now a full digital budget. So you guys are paying influencers, you're paying for ad buys, ad reads, all that stuff. Like, what is it like for you guys when influencers are setting their rates? Because it is the Wild West. You have people charging for exclusivity, usage, like the list goes on and on. What is that like from a PR perspective?
Sometimes we work with digital or what are they called? The buying agencies, media buying agencies.
Sure.
And this is the thing, like influencer, if you want to bucket that, is a new element in the sense that when we first were starting influencer back in 2013, 2014, whatever that might have been, I never forget doing Justin Bieber's Twitter representation while he was doing his Believe tour, whatever it was called, Believers tour.
I think he needs some new support these days.
No, honestly, yeah, he definitely does. But it was with Essence Cosmetics, and I remember just getting messages from all these people on Twitter being like, I'd walk on coals to get tickets to him. Like it was crazy. But back in the day, like this concept of influencer, it came out of a different budget because people didn't understand it as PR. So like if there was to ever be paid, it would come out of a paid budget that was maybe in a marketing person's bucket in a corner.
Yeah.
Now marketing is in our budget for the most part, in the sense it's definitely more combined, but we still can work with media agencies who are doing out of home and boosting the content that we pay influencers for. So you have to really work within that integrated marketing mix to figure out who your different players are and then make the budgets pull for you in different ways. But that's where working with an agency like our guys, him or us, I assume, is that we'll get preferred rates because we're doing different things, so you get multiple bites of the cherry versus,
and you guys have relationships.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have really good relationships.
I think
really good relationships.
Like to Meg's point, a big thing like as a takeaway is like we do everything in house at PNC. That includes like media. We call it like the infinite loop of marketing. So it's like where one service offering ends, the next one begins. But the big thing is like influencer budgets are now managed fully as part of the PR scope.
Yeah.
I think PR has evolved to not just be PR. We are just part of the marketing funnel.
Totally.
Like, in totality. You know, you look at it like every different client or project you're working on that I'm working on, everything has such 360 efforts that like we are fully a marketing department for a lot of our clients.
Totally.
Like you are the boots on the ground, you are the full team, you're doing it all. And I think especially when it comes to influencers, you know, there was a time and place when like you would pay someone $250, which is completely
I mean, it was me. My first ad for Scotiabank was $250.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And the other thing
and
is,
now look at you. We're in your studio doing a podcast.
I know.
Yeah, we've seen your rates.
Yeah. but
she commands the rate.
But talk about that a little bit, because I think that there's also this there's twofold. One, I think young creators that don't have the experience can price themselves out because they don't even realize. Either they're undercharging or they're pricing themselves out of the equation completely. On the reverse, there's a lot of intangibles that go into a creator's rate, whether that's like time spent in the industry, their experiences, whatever it might be. Then it also is just truly analytics, which is what I think some new influencers also don't realize. And like you said, they throw numbers to a wall or they expect to be treated a certain way because a lot of this, let's be honest, industry is very ego-led and very vain, especially from the influencer side of view. We talked about that on last week's episode if you guys tuned in. So yeah, talk about that a little bit when it is kind of like dealing with people that think they're like really great and deserve a certain
I think that's a whole political conversation, but I think like take authenticity off the table, like all the amazing great things of why you work with an influencer. Today's day and age, performance marketing is what brands and agencies are making decisions based off of.
Yeah.
Like it is so hard to reach consumers these days. There's a million different ways you can do it. But if we're going to be investing more money into the influencer bucket, you need to have results to prove that. So we need influencers to truly be driving results. And I think a lot of our integrations with influencers is truly like, let's work with you on your back end analytics. Let's look to see how we can make the content the highest performing to get the biggest result.
I think that's exactly the point. It's not vanity metric. It doesn't matter if you have 500,000 followers, if you're only getting 4 clicks on a post. Like it doesn't matter. Engagement is 100% king. The other thing is to think about because we are doing the full 360 marketing for all of our clients basically, and in some cases yes, we work with North American agency partners or we're working because we're part of an integrated agency kind of team. However, I guess the big takeaway is where can this influencer show up as part of that mix that's not just the single paid post? So
Fair.
I mean, you've done this with us where we'll pitch to Toronto Star, for example, and we'll have a piece of content that lives in media that's powered by influencer,
which is great.
And so it's that red thread that connects the storytelling through every facet of how you're showing up. And I think whether that is a media partnership at an experiential level where you know, it's, I don't know if you saw that Valeria, she has obviously her podcast.
Yeah.
And she just did a live taping of that with L'Oreal.
I did see that.
In partnership with Toronto Star.
Yes.
So that was a brand, went to a
Very
media outlet
360.
and then used a podcast and then created
with an influencer.
You know, exactly. 1 + 1 = 3. And so I think that's what we are trying to look for more now, is ways that you can integrate all the different things that you're doing to make one massive piece of content, if you will.
And then it's successful and people talk about it and you
also,
remember it.
It's cross-pollination because you're not just getting your reach, you're also getting the media reach, you're also getting the brand reach, you're also, you know, and then before you know it, everybody's happy.
I thought you were going to say, and Bob's your uncle and Fanny's your aunt.
That's what I do like to say, but people don't know that here, you know.
Can we also talk about what you said though, is like vanity metrics?
Yeah.
Like numbers mean nothing to us.
Nah.
Like
it's conversion.
Like there's a ton of bots in everyone's accounts. Like it's just the way the platforms are.
Yeah.
Like truly someone's reach is in their engagement.
Isn't that why you think like more nano people are way more
moving the needle?
I think reputable in terms of like brand conversion, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think I'm going to bring up a hot take, but a lot of luxury brands purely look at numbers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And it's very disappointing sometimes when a luxury brand is solely looking at a number and that's what they're...
Is that sometimes, Matt, we get that. We work with some luxury brands.
Do you feel like they equate that to like status?
Yes.
That's exactly why. Because it's also, this is gonna, we're basically shit talking influencers now. But there are...
I mean, this whole podcast is built from the POV. One, let me also just say, like, because I am the creator, I feel like if I can't dispute it and see the other sides and open up the conversation, how do you move the industry forward? This is the whole point.
Well,
like...
Okay, what were you going to say to me? You going to...
Yeah, let's start with the list of top 10.
No, so the thing, no,
and our careers are over.
It's at the Sunday roast. That's going to be me. My new,
Is this a soft launch?
No, oh my God, catch on.
Well, we have to tell this. So we always laugh about Meg should have a pod called the Sunday Roast where she like roasts people, but kind of Gossip Girl-esque, anonymous, because she cooks a roast. But this is a play on words, roasting people. You guys get it.
Yeah, I would
delicious
serve
content.
Delicious content. But I guess now we
and
can't
ready
do
to
it because
serve.
I thought it'd be like like Gossip Girl.
Well, we'd have to
but now everybody knows it's Megan Taylor.
Oh, you're fucking hell. Cut that. James? No.
Don't cut that.
What I was going to say is influencers. Some influencers have stayed stagnant at a certain amount of followers.
Sure.
And listen,
or not built new platforms. Like when TikTok came around and
exactly.
Some creators
You're
never
not
cross-pollinated or ever
Some people just think that they deserve to be X because they identify as Y.
Fair.
And like in a day and age where you can identify as whatever you want to identify as, I just think you shouldn't die on that hill. Like, and brands equally shouldn't feel that same level of commitment to a certain follower type or whatever. Like some of the briefs we get from luxury brands is right down to, it's not about their follower, it's about the type of content and the reach that this person has.
Sure.
So it's like, are they posting X aesthetic style? What, like it's so crazy and means absolutely nothing to the end result from a consumer perspective. However,
so that's an education then for you guys with their team to be like, you're looking too much at the vanity.
And I can sort of see why they do it, because on the luxury scale, I want to be careful on who I talk about, but in the clients that we have, sometimes they're using it as like brand portfolio for themselves, where they'll like, maybe they'll want to boost that post or they're going to want to have a collab post and it has to meet the aesthetic of the brand. So sometimes, but then I feel like that's the place where you pay for UGC and you're not paying for the person's reach, because if you only want their aesthetic, then you're paying for the content. 9 times out of 10, the person with the 1 million followers probably has a 1% engagement rate. Yeah. When the industry standard is over 3. Right. And so you're not reaching even. I
think the thing with luxury is people, you're always trying to uphold that luxury vision. Yeah. And I think that comes from vanity, because luxury is built off of vanity.
Totally.
Sex sells, man.
That's interesting. Can you talk a little bit about, because we've talked about you know, there's the influencers that fizzle out really quickly. They rise, they fall. Then there's creators that can stand the test of time. What makes a creator to you guys easy to work with, or on the reverse, completely impossible to work with and you cut ties?
Management.
You go first.
Influencer management.
I hate managers. Do you?
I don't say I hate, that's a strong word, but I think
It can ruin the relationship.
yeah, I want
It
to,
just is so cumbersome.
like, maybe this is my ego talking, but I want to build a relationship with the influencer.
creator.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Like, that is
I
what,
don't think that's ego at all. That's
No,
why
it's
I've
also
always,
how they tell brand story, because
we are the
imagine
architects of the brand
you
story.
tell
Like,
you tell the manager, then the manager tells the influencer, and all of a sudden the message is diluted to within an inch of its life. And then they come back for 4 clarifying phone calls to ask you about what that brand message is, or they send you the content and it's missing 3 out of the 4 points, or like,
I'm going to bring up a hot take.
tell me.
Last year, did an influencer partnership during the summer for a very big brand moment that happens during a global cultural event
Okay.
that happens in Canada. I don't want to reveal the details,
Yeah.
but
it's giving pride float.
no. So essentially, working with the manager, they oversold the influencer on their capabilities. Can this influencer host an event? Can they do public speaking? Can they address the crowd? Can they deliver on all key messaging? Yes. Great. This is match made in
Meanwhile,
heaven.
they show up and they're like, oh, I can't speak in front of a crowd.
Quite literally.
Wow.
We are at the event.
very
We've done
disappointing.
all the briefing calls.
Yeah.
The influencer refused to join any of the briefing calls because their manager said, no, everything will be
I know who
relayed.
this is.
That's bad.
We show up at the event. We are quite literally about to hand the
Ready
mic,
to
do
roll.
that pre-little 5-minute briefing before
They
speaking
ditch.
time. Like, we've done we've checked every box. We've done the pre-briefing call, run through checklist with all the management team. Influencer is like, I can't publicly speak to the crowd. I'm so nervous. I don't do that. Like, well, how do you, to your hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok, how are you doing that every day? You're talking in front of the camera. This is no different. They're like,
Well,
no,
it is.
I would have never agreed to this. We're like, well, your
but your
manager's
manager
here.
did.
Like, you need to get on stage right now. And
Fulfill your contract.
yeah.
And they did
100%.
not fulfill their
They
contract.
did not.
They were let go the next day. Termination.
It's giving. So, and this is what I was going to
And
say.
like, this is business. Like, this is not trying to, like, we
no
tried to
ego.
work through a bunch of different
Sorry,
solutions.
who was let go? The manager
No,
or
no, the influencer.
The influencer
Yeah,
was
the
let go.
partnership was
The
terminated.
partnership was terminated.
Sorry, not me speaking like I know about it, but this
No,
is
but
actually a
that
hot
makes
point
sense.
because the reality is our industry is so small. And
Everybody knows everybody.
I know about this and I would not hire that person then
Of course.
based on that. And it's actually a worse reflection on the manager because the manager mismanaged his
But
talent.
but no matter what it is, it's still a reflection on. This is my whole issue with creators that put their trust in managers that do not have their best interest, because ultimately that is a reflection on your brand.
Well, yeah, I guess.
It is.
Your manager is your publicist. They are your
100%.
They are your representation.
Well, actually, you want to do it with the way they do it in America, and those people have managers and, agents and publicists and so on and so forth.
Torri, call us.
I know. Well, this is my team, guys, so no one gets better than me.
But no, I think
It's
it's
crazy though that
and like what's
No,
really
that's
upsetting
nuts.
is like I like actually fell in love with that creator because like I believed in their content. I think it's
100%.
super engaging. They're an excellent creator.
but they came up on TikTok fame
yeah.
in that wild experience.
And
They
what I'm
have
trying
over
to
a
say
million
to you is
followers,
like
and
that they are lacking media training. They are lacking the ability to be in front of a crowd and present. We call it key messaging, whatever it might be. But it's like in that moment, that really differentiates the people that can continue in this world and be in the tenure of it all, or the people that kind of fizzle out, because it's like you can't rise to the occasion. You've disappointed brands. You're not meeting briefs. You're not meeting deadlines. I mean, I'm sure you guys deal with that too. Talk about like meeting
this is-
deadlines
this-
with managers.
Go on then.
I was gonna say back to that. Like you're someone who's an excellent example of someone that's grown their career to become.
I just bring my friends on to speak.
No,
nicely
like
about
I think this is an important thing. It's like you are not just a creator. You are literally
Marketing.
You've transformed your entire brand to be marketing. You're a personality. You're a host, a creator, all the things. Multi hyphenated, as everyone likes to say now.
Actor.
Actress.
Don't forget about it.
Actor. Sorry, actor.
Oh yeah, they have shade.
Don't cancel. She's an actor.
But I think like it's been amazing seeing someone like you go from, you know, doing the content creation to hosting to consulting for
you.
brands. Like it's amazing seeing you hosting on a red carpet, interviewing talent. Like that's the evolution of where
That's what
creators
makes an
take their careers.
influencer good to work with. Is
Yeah.
to answer that question that you just asked us earlier, and none of us answered properly. Is
We're giving you the PR spin.
yeah, no, but it genuinely is somebody who understands the end result and somebody who can take that marketing mix and move it forward, right, in a way that is ultimately going to be beneficial to the brand, because we are in business together, and whilst you're getting a paycheck, you're still representative. You're a brand ambassador for a client, a company, somebody who has already got a name behind themselves, and you're there championing and cheerleading that on. Until you're an investor in a company, or until you're the face of a brand, until you're co-creating a product, like, you actually don't really have a say in the brand marketing or messaging behind that client.
Totally.
So you're there showing up and getting your bag like we do every day, like checking in and, you know, being able to say, I am to show up for that company. So you have to take the ego out. And I think that is what's missing in a lot of influencer approaches.
Big ego.
But it also takes me back just full circle on the concept of why I think PR has still got its fundamental roots, and that it is the fact that it's storytelling, it's the marketing mix, it's the key messaging, it's this small network and everybody knowing everybody else. It's it everything is relationships at its core. And TikTok and all the rest of it builds fame overnight, but those people do not marketing geniuses make.
I mean, you guys know this too, is the sense that when I started, I felt like I knew every influencer by name. I knew their partners. I got to know everybody.
In a room.
I don't know nobody comes up to say hi anymore. The only people I know are the people that have been doing it for 10 years, like that have been on the podcast, like the Mel Wangs, like the people that have literally been around. I'm like, otherwise it's like this young TikTok generation. They don't make the effort. And like, to be frank, like, I don't need to make the effort because I'm kind of like, whatever.
It amazes me sometimes when creators are at like a dinner and they all don't know each other.
I know.
I feel like weird. I feel like I know who you are. I feel like I know who the 100,000 fucking. Oops,
I know.
sorry, I shouldn't.
I think you can swear, maybe.
You can swear.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, don't cuss. Wait.
You can cuss. We've got our in-ears.
Here we go.
All you hear is beep, beep, beep. No, I think it's just amazing that creators don't also network the same way PR people do.
But PR people don't even network anymore either.
Well, there's OGs like us.
Yeah. Listen, look at all of us sticking together.
Wow, you have a sweaty hand.
Oh, listen, I'm trying to keep this leg up over here.
See, I told you it was hard work.
Okay, let's pivot. Satin pants. Let's pivot a little bit because this is a hot topic. I want to talk about press trips. I want to talk about what goes into planning them. Like, I see from you guys how much work it is to like get these off the ground. Do brands still
love a press trip?
I love to be on one.
You love it. I'm on this trip.
Megan has a new client work.
Yeah, that's exactly right. No, the thing is,
that's cut
do you know
from
what? No, don't cut that. I kind of love it. Whatever. Say what you want to say.
Yeah.
Do you know why? Because I have an excellent team of amazing executors who are way better
the PR
than I am.
The PR spin.
Yeah. Yo, say it
Shout
again,
out to
sister.
Faulhaber. Yeah.
No, truly. I mean, honestly, this is a joke among ourselves. Our companies are very different. Pomp is much bigger than us.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're doing amazing things, and they have a large team. They have 2 VPs, like, you know, in fact, even more. Do you have 3? You have 3. And so, like, there you go. That just shows you in essence. So the business model is different. And so we always have a laugh about the fact that I say I don't do the same type of client work. And I don't. And like,
but then Megan shows up on the press.
But then I'm on this trip. No, but what I will say is, yes, we have an amazing team. We have worked really hard to have specialties on event planning with our amazing director of events. We have specialties within media. We have specialties within digital, the whole 9 yards.
Of course, but like I see how much work it is to actually get a press trip.
Well, that's what I was going to say is, in my defense, when I do press trips, 9 times out of 10, I am doing the itinerary.
Involved, yeah.
I am booking the hotels. You know why though? Because
good
I
taste.
want to go to somewhere that I want to go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I'm going to book horses in LA, and I'm going to be booking flipping Carbone or whatever. And we're going to be calling up
Kris Jenner calling up.
We are the only people who are calling these places and getting the right rates, the right table, and at the right time. We don't want no 5 p.m. dining.
I was reading a book the other day, and there was a quote being like, oh my God, like, do we have a reservation? It looks so busy. And then the text was, of course we do. And then she just responds, I love publicists, because he's a publicist in the book. So it's true. These guys have the hottest reservations in town always.
No, let's tell a story
what was the
Tinks's book. How much work it is to get press at the time. But I'm going to tell you, though, a story quickly, because interlude, Torri's boyfriend, Adam, calls me, I'm in Ireland, calls me at 2 a.m, my time, and says, hey, Meg, I need a reservation at Carbone in Vegas. Can you get me in? And I went, what the fuck? It's literally 2 a.m.
But of course I can.
So I was like, yeah, but I'm going to need my wing woman to help me, because I'm not fucking calling Vegas at 2 a.m. So I text I text Rob. It's
Enter
so
the
hard
group
to
chat,
say.
Rob, Adam,
so hard
and
to
Meg.
say your name. That's not the name I want to call you. But I enter a group chat. I literally text Rob right away and say, "Get this man a reservation at Carbone because I'm sleeping and it's off my time zone right now." So he does it, and then within 45 minutes, Adam and his
friend
posse of pals are heading in and
Carbone, to
they're
an
in
impossible
Carbone.
reservation in Vegas.
Impossible
That
reservation.
is completely booked up. There are no tables available, but
Yeah.
publicists make it happen.
And remember when
Yeah.
you booked my birthday at 11 and we had the best night of my life and I was
my
able
God.
to write it off
I
against...
thought we weren't allowed to talk about
against,
that.
Why not?
No, against brand deals.
was
Like
right
we
off-
all work together.
yeah.
I get a brand deal. He gets the table. We all work together. And
Yeah,
Bob's
it was
your uncle.
club. I was
Fanny is your
able to
aunt.
write off 11 as
Strip club.
a corporate write-off because Rob had my
It's a
face.
fine establishment.
It is. Well, I mean, Snoop Doggy Dogg played for us at 4 in the morning.
But the reason I was able to like chat with my accountant and be like, this is a write-off was because Rob had done so much promo that they had literal like cutouts of my face and like at Torri Webster, like the marketing play. So by the time I paid for the table, my account was like, what's XXX on your credit card? And I was like, that's a write-off, baby. And I've got proof. So that's the way we collab.
But I guess to circle back to the question and hone in on the answer, press trips are a lot of effort to get off the ground. And it's like, yes, because a lot of it is that nuanced planning on what is the trip going to look like? How are you going to get the right people at the place? You know, what type of venues are you?
So much
There's
logistics,
a
the
million and 10
Ubers, the-
logistics. Ubers, the travel. What's worse is when you have a client that has a travel team that sort of forces you into having their team do the bookings for flights and stuff. That really irritates me because then we have no control. I mean, you were with us on a trip when something went wrong, and inclement weather meant that flights were cancelled or had to be moved, and then we
get
have to
stuck.
wait for travel teams to come. Anyway, long effort and not necessary, but. I would say it's a lot of slog to get a press trip off the ground, and people just again look at it as a glamour tactic and they think, oh, that trip is amazing. Look how much money was spent on that. Look how much free stuff they get. Look at all this glamour and everybody's tanning and getting this room filled with swag. And I'm like,
That's why Meg has such a nice tan right now.
Yeah.
Press trip came off hot off a press trip.
At Bondi Sands.
But I think like when it comes to press trips, and I think one of the biggest things that influencers get flack for and PR agencies get flack for is like it's glamorized, obviously, but we're trying to we're trying to dimensionalize a story into an experience.
Yeah.
And I think that is what press trips were built on. It is what is actually a press trip? It's a fam trip, which is a brand familiarization trip. It's a way for
Speaking
you
in travel terms now.
Yeah, it's a way for you to familiarize yourself with the brand on a deep storytelling level, to be completely immersed, for you then to translate that into content that consumers ultimately consume and get to learn. So it's not just about like the fancy restaurant reservations, which all have a time and place for, but it's truly about building an experience. Like you were on a press trip with us. We got to go to Utah, which was completely amazing for Buffalo jeans. And we completely built an experience.
I mean, those jeans sold out with that 10 million.
And like that's it. But you
Jacqueline and I topless.
topless.
Oh yeah, they did a topless photo shoot in the middle of Utah's Zion
still
National
one of my
Park.
most viral videos.
You know what though? That's because you also you've done stuff with brands that aren't ours where there is like a marketing link. So when you go on a press trip or you're at a press event, like there's also a link to directly buy the stuff that you're having and consuming while you're there.
Sure.
And I think that is an evolution of a standard press trip. Second to that, further evolution is building a community trip extension. So I saw this in the UK happen, and we did a spin on it where we integrated community with influencer. And so we had influencers bring their extended community of followers who are, you know, maybe for want of a better phrase, a friend, a digital friend of yours. Like, it wouldn't be like if you went on a press trip and you brought me as a plus one.
Sure.
We're actual real life friends. But if you have a follower that you know because you see them in your DMs all the time and they're always the first to comment, like you can invite them on that trip, or you could even do a contest and invite people that way. But a brand that I love in the UK, Refi, it's the eyebrows and stuff. They did their brand is built by influencers for obviously consumers, whatever. Do you know this brand?
No.
It's a girl called Jess Hunt. She's an influencer in the UK. She's from Manchester, I think, and she has this amazing, started her brand on this brow product, which is like I don't know how you call it, like a brow freeze, like basically put your brows in place. It built out now. It's got everything, lips, face, the whole nine. But because they're influencers, they were so bored of seeing like influencer press trips because they've been on a million themselves. They're also getting the flack that we all get. Like, this is so glamorized. Why are you spending so much money? I mean, Tarte got torn apart and they're like tripping with Tarte, the whole thing, right? Like, it's just crazy.
Like, consumers are getting a bit tired of
because it just
everybody else
feels
experiencing
exactly,
the glamour.
and they're not. So then they were like, well, let's pony up. Let's make this a community trip. And so instead of calling it a creator trip, they called it community. No, I think that they probably vetted their community because they were very curated, but it was really with an end goal of UGC for their own channels, but also to give these creators the opportunity to engage with the brand on this familiarization level that we're just talking about, and like be one with then the brand team and to start to build that rapport. So I think that's where you're going to see press trips going in the future, is either an integrated lens like we took with Neostrata when we took a bunch of people to Whistler, or a totally independent community trip where you're really opening the brand's doors, which would be cool, to the community of consumers versus community of creators.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think 360 integration in a press trip is going to be a huge part of what we're going to see in the future. One of my favorite things that we did that sort of was, maybe you guys did this as well, but we did this at the beginning of, like, right before the pandemic hit, with Mercedes-Benz. Actually, sorry, we're going to scrap that. We're not going to name the name.
Sure.
We're working with a competing client.
No worries.
But we worked with a luxury automotive brand at the beginning of the pandemic, and we basically curated an experience where it was a press trip for 50 creators across the country.
Wow.
All flew into Gimli, Manitoba, one of the coldest places on earth that you can land an airplane.
That looked like such a sick trip.
I remember
it was
seeing
basically
that.
brand trip, brand experience, commercial shot, influencers in commercial,
So cool.
cut downs for social, like,
and
you name
you
it.
Do
it
that
was,
for their full suite too. Like you had the C-suite was in there. You did like a sales event or something for them too, which I think is also interesting. If that is what I remember correctly.
that one, it basically like complete 360. So everything was integrated, from media stories that were bought to feature the experience, influencers being paid for content.
Right.
Sorry,
It was literally
I
everything.
was going to rejig that whole answer because I think I messed that up, but
yeah, fair enough. Whatever.
But basically what we did was a fully integrated press trip offering. But I think one of the biggest takeaways was, like, this massive ice garage of 88,000 pounds of frozen ice was completely built, and it acted as a set, not only for influencers and their content, but for commercial spots, for ad spots, for social cut downs.
It lets your money go so much further too. It's
100%,
one trip,
100%.
everybody's activating.
That's something I think that agencies bring to the table, is the ability to look at how can you make the most ROI from what you're spending on.
Yeah.
So, like, you build this amazing set for an event. Okay, well,
One and done. Yeah.
Not one and done. It's like, how do we then take this to be a backdrop? Do we invite an influencer the next day? Do we film a
Photo shoot,
podcast there?
Yeah.
Do we do XYZ? There's just so many more legs to things. So we look at, like, definitely how are we maximizing, whenever we're investing in anything, how are we maximizing the return to make sure that we can make the most use out of whatever we're building, doing it, making
Very
people
smart.
experience.
Can you talk a little bit about list curation for press trips?
You can absolutely do this. You've gotten trolled so much of late. You have to indulge us.
Who have I been trolled by?
You want me to name the name?
Oh God.
I guess what I'm trying to say is I as someone that goes on a lot of press trips from the influencer POV, it's very obvious when you end up on a trip where you can just feel the energy. It meshes, it's fun, it's lighthearted, but everyone knows they're there to work. It's professional, but people let loose in the right moments, and it's great. It always kind of feels like summer camp. That's always the analogy I use, because it feels like you're on this adventure with people and it's very unique and cool. But then there's other press trips where there's either someone that just doesn't fit in, or you can just sense their, like, negativity or whatever it might be. But you guys ultimately are the curators. So what does that feel like for you guys when you are putting together these lists? And maybe also interesting for influencers that are coming up to hear, like, what kind of gets people invited on these trips?
I think a few different things. One, like, who is the brand trying to reach? That's, like, obviously number one.
Sure.
But I think the biggest thing with a press trip is relationship building and having the creators have a dynamic that is ultimately going to translate in content on social. Like, for right now, we are working on a press trip for F1 in Montreal. And, like, one of the biggest things we look at is who are the people that we want to bring, but who is going to be the most authentic.
It's at Kodak Capture. If you're asking for future reference.
That's Meg's handle, by the way.
That's Megan.
But yeah, we're
Big
looking
F1
at just
queen.
basically who is going to offer the most, the best dynamics for how they're going to mesh with the group.
Yeah.
Because we want to make sure that, one, our guests are having the best time possible.
Totally.
Two, they're being fed an experience that's going to help translate on social. But three is, how are they going to
Show up, like, good
interact
attitude.
and engage with the rest of the guests. Like, I think we've all been on a press trip where people don't mesh, like you've said.
Totally.
And it's definitely learning. Like, we obviously want to make sure we're offering the most inclusive environment. But it's a relationship industry, and sometimes relationships just don't mesh.
Yeah.
But you're looking to make sure, are there ways that your experience is involving inclusivity? So if someone's more quiet, maybe they're getting that opportunity to be more involved.
Absolutely.
Because I think at the end of the day, we want to make sure every experience is inclusive.
I had never thought about that. Like, it actually probably is really tough for creators that do present more introverted, because press trips, no matter how you spin it. Pardon?
Intimate.
They're very intimate, and you're at dinner tables. It's kind of demanding for small talk, for networking, for the thing that we're saying that is sort of missing in the industry. And a lot of these young creators either, one, don't have practice with it, or are naturally more introverted. So yeah, I guess that could be kind of tough.
Other thing that people don't think about, maybe they do, maybe you think about this too, but like from a consumer standpoint, people should actually not be discrediting press trips or thinking about them as just these glamorized whatever au fait experiences, because I would say 9 times out of 10 we're not paying people for press trips,
right? Because
they're getting the big experience. They're getting the F1 ticket, paddock pass, the pit lane walk.
Well, sorry, a priceless experience.
But the thing is, but some people will be like, yeah, I'll do that. Like, I have a specific creator in mind. They're like, yeah, I'm going to go to that destination. I'm going to do that once in a lifetime experience that my money wouldn't buy, because it's a $50,000 experience. But I also am going to want $30,000 to go, because I want to charge you for my time. And the thing is, we don't typically do that unless there's like some really big, exception to the rule. And so what I think then comes from that, because they're being fed an experience that's totally relatable to them, that is authentically them, that they're going to truly indulge in and enjoy, it's way more a true reflection of that brand to the consumer, because that person is on that trip because they want to give up their time. They're not being paid to be there. Yeah. They actually want to and already authentically engage with that brand. And therefore, what they say coming off the back of that is way more power-packed than being paid to do a post.
Yeah, and I guess where things get a little gray is when, or at least in my experience, is like when brands have very specific content expectations or guidelines or things like that. That's different and like can be explored as a paid partnership on top of a trip. But I agree, like the amount of times we've gone to like call them fam trips to go explore a place or see a thing or learn about a new brand. It's like
usually loose expectations too. Yeah. But I guess you bring up something that reminds me of a conversation we had about press trips, where you get to go on this amazing experience. You're in a European country. You're there with like other really premium creators who, in some cases, are being paid, but then you're not. Like, I guess
that's awkward.
But then she's been in that experience.
I've had that experience where I ended up on the trip and I was the one not being paid, and other creators were getting paid. But she was told no budget. But then I was like, hey, all these men are being paid, so you need to pay a female as well. Like, and anyways, it did turn into a partnership, but.
Do you know what I find that you've approached really well, which I think I could shout out here as a learning for potential creators that are listening, is that like sometimes you approach a press trip like that where it's like you have no paid expectations. We're not putting budget in. You're at an event or you're at a press trip, but it's an organic partnership. You really like the brand. You create content maybe above and beyond stories or whatever. You're doing specific reels, or you put together a package, and then you send that back to the partner and you say, hey brand, I've just done this organically. It's reached X amount of followers. I think this has real legs to go more viral. Can we work on a paid partnership? That is what we go back to at the very beginning of this conversation around relationships. Like, that's showing up for that brand. That's building a relationship. That's happened for me so many times. That's why I'm saying, like you do that really well, and I just think that more people could do that instead of standing there with their hand out asking for something. Like,
I know.
I think there's 2 key takeaways for working with creators in terms of a press trip. 1, setting expectations and aligning on those expectations. And 2, knowing the value on both sides that is being offered. Yeah. Like, for example, a press trip to the Grand Prix, you are getting $50,000 in value.
More.
If not more. Like, you are getting complete access. Totally. And like
priceless. Genuinely priceless. Like, I mean, unless you're loaded, but no one is going to be spending.
It's a $66,000 experience in Montreal.
She knows
I'll be
the exact
clear,
number
because F1.
She's looked.
But like that is so crazy to me, because I would like. I just think that's it's just insane.
No, it's creators sometimes don't realize the value that we're investing. Yeah. We are giving you the front row ticket to this access.
Yeah. Sorry, you're getting them into the garage. No, they're joking.
Quite literally.
They're seeing the mechanics. They're seeing the car. They watch a wheel change.
Understanding, like, you need to be a fan and authentically want to engage in that space to make see the value.
I agree.
But some creators just don't see that value. And whether it's not Formula One, whether it's completely other pressure, whether it's you're going to, like, literally with Utah, that experience, it's like you are going horseback riding, literally with cowboys in denim. You're completely having this insane experience that you just don't get access to. A normal consumer can't get access to.
Australian Open, we sent people to the Australian Open, like, and that, do you know what, again, relationship that came from an organic conversation between me and Alana. We were just sat having fish and chips at lunch, and she was like, "Oh, I'm desperate
because
to go
it's
to Australia."
the love, exactly.
And then
when
she tells me
is...
how much she wants to go to Australia. Doesn't even care about Australian Open. She's like, "I really want to go to Australia." Then she's also talking about her love for tennis. I'm like, "Whoa, those two things together. I have an opportunity for you." She goes out there, has the time of her life, creates unparalleled content that the client is so happy with. And as a result, like, that's a relationship that you couldn't have bought.
But something that would have also never happened if it weren't for what we're talking about, which is like just networking and chatting and having a conversation and telling people and being open about what you love, what you're working on, what's coming up. Like, you know, when I'm in rooms now, I'm just like, my podcast, I love my podcast. Like, you have to talk about it or people just don't hear you. Like,
that's the organic editorial
you gotta,
content
break through
that
the
you
noise.
have to put onto your channel so that your consumers and brands know what you stand for and who you are as a person.
Like, I've met with a lot of creators who have the most insane hobbies, like so much opportunity for storytelling. And then they've told me, like, oh no, but like what I'm curating online is just this. And like,
but
why?
What
a mistake.
I'm like, but I actually like connect with you deeper on that level because you have those hobbies or those amazing like things that you love to do that you've told me about in a personal realm. But like, why aren't you monetizing on that? Also, that would help round out your content so much more. Open you up to like not just be the
like a pretty face.
The curated box that you're putting yourself in online on social platforms.
Do you think influencer managers, this is going to be maybe a cancelable discussion, but
don't put the words out there.
No, but well, she can cut it. But do you think that influencer managers generally are more just like calendar bookers? Like, where they actually don't understand this dynamic, where they're not training the creators in a way that's like, here's how you could curate the perfect content. Here's how you integrate with brands. Here's like that stuff that we teach our clients all the time. I think there is such a gray space. Sorry, trademarked here. It's keeping with me if I choose to do this at my agency. But like, there's such a gray space for how those creators are showing up that I don't think right now is handled properly by talent and managers, because they're just basically booking calendar and taking 10%.
I think there are a lot of great management companies. And I think, you know, at every management company, there's like one golden person that is the star. But to be honest, I think it does end up becoming just filling a box. Like, we got deal here, deal here. But then some of the creators that I like engage with a lot or have built personal friendships with, they've told me like, I'm not booking stuff right now. I'm like, look at your management team.
That's
they haven't reached out to me.
Of your relationships.
Like, I'm the lead decision maker, and they haven't reached out to me. Why is that? Why have I not heard about the 10 things that you're up to this month?
100%. It's so reactive. It's not proactive, I find, with influencer managers. Like, that's because they're the middleman, the conduit between a creator and an agency. Like, you're not meeting them for coffee every day. Like, well, I'm not. I mean,
I always say this all the time. There is an influencer talent agency in Toronto, and I never received one single email from them.
Wow.
I mean, I don't have to at my level at this point, but I am the one that's usually educating my teams and informing them of like people they should be meeting.
Tell me who that is. Text me later.
They might be across the hall.
Dink.
We're not, that's not making it in here. But they're never here.
I thought they actually left that building. I didn't think they were still in there.
I mean, luckily no one knows where this podcast studio is, so I think we're in the clear.
Yeah, I just feel like I don't know why we're not reached out to. Even a lot of my team, like they'll get a general newsletter, but like, what's that doing?
Nothing.
Why aren't you taking my team out for lunch? Why aren't you taking my team out for coffee?
That's why I think it's like, it's so agnostic of the creator, and it's more so the industry, right? These talent managers, they think they understand the industry of influencer. They're like, this is how we show up as a creator. This is what we do, blah, blah, blah. This is our list of talent. But actually what it should be is curated to the individuals that you represent. Like, here are 10 things that this person is up to this month, or here are 10 brands that we know that this person wants to work with, or ways that we could cut through the noise, or here are 10 things you as my client could be doing to make yourself an organic footprint that's going to actually resonate with X brand. That's not happening. And that's possibly because we have so many talent agencies that are just representing a slew of people for no reason, or like I don't know. I feel like there needs to be like less people per manager.
Yeah, I do think one thing with
Probably.
management firms that is a pro, like, I don't want to fully knock them. I just think they need to ensure that relationship building is not removed from the process.
It's paramount. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But I do think they do a great job of managing talent in terms of a level of professionalism
Fair.
when engaging in a contract negotiations. But I do think like it's in some cases, but it's not fair when, you know, I have my budget, but now there's a complete markup on it because your talent management is involved.
Agreed.
Yeah, I make them back that out. The other thing is, like, sorry to say, and listen, we have an amazing talent influencer manager who runs most of our contracts and stuff at the baseline. But like, whenever I talk to influencers, I would say like 4 times out of 10, that influencer has never seen my contract that I have with the talent manager. Have you ever experienced this?
Oh my God,
There's one
that's
specific
so sketch.
There's one we've talked about this
Yeah.
person. There's one specific person, one talent agency that I'll tell you later, who does this. And so you have
Meaning they're skimming. They're taking
exactly.
they're taking money from the creator without
they're saying it's
divulging
20%,
that.
but then they're then they're maybe taking 30%. Because
Yeah.
what's happening is they're gonna go to the creator with my ask, and just let's say for sake of the terminology, I'm saying you've got 20K to do this partnership. They're gonna go to the creator and they're gonna say it's 15K for the partnership.
Oh, absolutely.
They're gonna take their 20% off the 15, and then they're gonna skim the 5 off the top. Like, and I know for a fact that has happened, and it's the same talent agency that locks their talent into 3-year exclusive contracts that people are signing because they literally don't have any idea.
Yeah. And I think something that
business
also
acumen.
bothers me, sorry, this has become an event session. Something that also bothers me about talent agencies is the fact that they don't take the ask to the creator off the bat.
Yeah, they'll vet it.
And then it's by the time the negotiations happen, it's like, okay, we're taking this to them now. And it's like,
Oh, what's so funny is
sorry, are they even interested? Like, we've just
Yeah.
wasted 3 weeks of negotiating and you haven't
Right.
even asked them if
What
they're
a
interested.
waste of
also, even if
time.
they want to go to an event, like this has happened to somebody that like I really well personally know, whose talent manager, like business manager, keeps saying no to attending events. And then whenever I speak to this person in person, they're like, oh, I would have gone to that. And I'm like, okay, well, your manager said no. And so it's really funny that anyway, we're rambling.
Oh my
Listen,
God, that just happened
you're
to me
speaking to
before
the
with a press
converted.
trip. The ask never made it to the influencer
influencer?
because there was no monetary exchange.
Oh, see, that's
And then the influencer was
sad.
like, oh my God,
I would have loved
I would have
this.
loved to come. And
Aw.
then where I was like, you know, you were invited. You were like on the top of the list.
You're speaking to the converted. It's why I don't trust anyone to manage what I do, because I agree. It has so much to do with the relationships and what goes on behind the scenes. And it does not go undervalued. The amount of times I've just met up with someone for a coffee and that's led to something because you just stay top of mind for people. And there's so many people in the industry. Like, if you're not putting in the effort, you're so easily forgotten. Sorry, we've gone on a full tangent. I will pare back a little bit and then we'll do rapid fire questions. So 2 more kind of things. 1, talk a little bit about AI. This has come up a lot on the pod recently. How do you feel like this is changing the industry, will change the industry in the future? How are you using it? How are you not using it? What's your agency's relationship with AI right now?
I think it's a very important discussion. I think our future is going to be impacted severely by AI. Not from a negative standpoint, but I think from how we harness the power of it to do our jobs on a new scale.
Fair.
I think, you know, AI is so new in so many different ways, but I think how you harness it in terms of public relations is going to mean one thing. It's going to derive so many new efficiencies, but the human component is something that will be
not go
completely
away.
priceless. You will never be able to walk away from that. I'm interested to see how AI, you know, takes a new step with influencers.
Yeah.
But I think in the world of PR, it's still evolving. I think we've seen some brands do campaigns that have completely blown off in a great way.
Sure.
And a lot of brands that have gotten a lot of flack for
Yeah.
removing like creatives
Real
from the
talent.
equation.
Yeah.
Like, we want to see models. We want to see real people. We don't want to
Totally.
see AI images of people.
Yeah, we've had brands get flagged for that too.
But I think something that where AI you will see more of is brand assets taking more of an AI first approach.
Right.
Because, you know, sometimes a brand doesn't have the budget to produce, you know, maybe they have like 700 different SKUs. like they might not have the budget to do 700 different individual stills against that. So
It's going to speed things up too.
it's going to speed things up,
Yeah.
but there is a time and place still in the future, no matter what, for the human component,
I
for
agree.
real talent, real creatives. That I think is never going to go away. But I think just AI is going to be a part of our toolkit of everything that we're using in PR. I think it's still very new. So I think early adopters are just figuring out their path
Totally.
for how it's used. But I don't know if you have any thoughts.
What
On
he
AI.
said. No, I think like
Retweet.
Yeah. Can I get an
retweet.
RT? What do they call that now? Like a re-X?
A what?
Oh yeah.
When it's no
Now
longer
it's
Twitter,
X.
it's just you.
Yeah, could you still say
Xing?
retweet or just
Oh, fuck
re-X?
Repost.
Repost, not James with the knowledge.
Remix.
Can I get a
Yeah.
rewind? No, I think what he said, but then also I think it's the tools on how you run your business. Like baseline, are you automating services? Are you like we're integrated into an online workflow management versus maybe Excel lists or written to-do lists, all that sort of stuff. Like so, it's trying to have economies of scale in the tools that you use to be able to be more efficient for the clients.
Of course.
To truly maximize the workflow. But
It's also the whole idea of like, if you don't adopt it, you're left behind. That's very much my
I'm going to be so
take.
true. It's so hard to adopt the digital future.
Yeah.
Like as somebody who comes from an age of like dial-up internet and like
You're aging yourself.
no, but it's
Noise.
like, you've got, we do this thing at the agency. It's called Gallup Strengths. We've talked about this, you and
Yeah.
I before. It's really looking at inherent things that you're really good at and being excellent at those versus maybe when you were at school or something and you had a tutor for math or for science because you needed to scrape by and get that C. But like, instead of doing that, where you have the tutor that's going to help you evolve something that you're baseline at, you're actually spending your time and energy on things that you're already good at so that you can be the best possible
Building
version.
strengths, always,
Exactly.
yeah.
And so we try and curate teams around that. And what's really funny is Lexi, who's our president, she is a futurist. And so her strength is really adopting, leaning into that digital, into the AI, which is amazing because she's leading our agency and like
Perfect.
that's perfect. Whereas me, I'm maybe more of the now person. And I see this stuff, like one of my top strengths is being an arranger. So moving all these puzzle pieces, identifying where we can go to get things done. But maybe that's much more tangibly like physical versus
Totally.
the digital. And so we work well together, but I can say that as a leader, if I don't adopt it, nobody else in the agency is adopting
Yeah,
it, which is
yeah.
challenging. So for me, it's a personal hurdle. But I do think AI is really important. Tools that you're using to streamline the business, how we're showing up, across all facets, in your digital footprint. But the personal connection of PR is never going to go away. Like
Yeah.
that.
Seems like you guys are quite aligned.
100%. Like
Yeah.
it's not really public relations, it's people relations. Like we are.
Oh, I love that.
That I just wrote a blog on that recently.
People
Read it.
Did you? I read that on
relations.
LinkedIn.
Did you?
Oh.
I do think like whether it's AI, whether it's the next big technology innovation that we're going to see, I think the biggest thing is as marketers, publicists,
Yeah.
is how do you continue to adapt to make that a new thing in your toolkit?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think something with our teams, which I'm sure you can relate to, is we like to think of everyone as a Swiss Army knife. Whatever tool you need to pull out, you're going to have it at moment's notice. So
Yeah.
whether you need to be an AI expert, an event expert, an influencer expert, design expert, publicist, we wear so many hats. So it's just another tool that we need to just learn and adapt
Yeah.
and know when and how to use it.
We have like too much to cover. Like it's almost like we need to come back for part two because
Second.
I've only gotten to basically half of the questions. So I think it's time we move to rapid fire because we've already been rolling for nearly an hour because you guys are so
Oops.
perfect. No, in a good way. Like there's so much to cover there. It really is so complex and
There's a lot to dissect.
there is, and I appreciate you guys being so open and coming on, and you guys really are experts in the space. It means so much that you came. So thank you. So let's do some rapid fire. Okay, rapid fire number one. Do PR blacklists actually exist?
Yes.
Retweet.
Okay, then that they do. Okay, so that leads me to rapid fire number two. What's one thing to be a sure way that you will be put on a PR blacklist?
I don't even. Actually, how do you answer that?
Like, would it be
I have
like
been
not-
harassed on my
No,
personal
but, like-
social media DMs.
But can you? Is that
Okay,
is
so
that
like-
reasonable?
so like being harassed for free product.
Harassment for. Okay, actually, a surefire way of being on a blacklist is. And honestly, this is in my personal life too. So listen up. Is writing me without even a hello, how's your day? can I get
Sure.
you anything, but give me this.
I hate
a lot of
transactional relationships.
a lot of like,
Transaction.
I need this and I won't give anything.
How do
Okay.
I, not even a how do I get on the list, just I should be on that list.
Okay, so that's how you get on a PR
Entitlement.
blacklist, folks.
Entitlement.
Being
like-
big ego, entitlement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. You're learning here. Okay. Most overused word in PR decks right now.
That's you.
Oof. Oh my God, this is not rapid fire because I don't have a quick response. Cachet.
That's
Ugh.
funny. What do you think? Most overused word in a PR deck?
Extension of your team.
Amplification.
I thought authentic would be one too.
Nah.
I feel like that's a buzzword. Maybe not. Okay. Instagram grid or TikTok for you page?
For me,
FYP.
Instagram grid.
Well, I'm talking like ROI for brands.
Oh, sorry. Instagram grid.
Yeah.
FYP.
Okay. An
Less controllable.
influencer red flag you can spot from a mile away.
100,000 followers and 3 comments.
Okay. Perfect.
Oh, inauthenticity.
Against the buzzword. Which is harder to manage, a diva brand or a diva creator?
Diva brand.
Diva brand.
Okay. And final question of the pod, Kris Jenner or Samantha Jones?
Samantha Jones.
Ooh, that's tough.
She got dick and decks.
Perfect.
Kris Jenner.
Of course.
Well, that's
I would
you.
have to.
yeah,
I would
we
have
always
to.
say that Rob is Kris Jenner. Guys, I love you both. Thank you for coming on the pod.
have
This has
fun.
been a great episode of That Digital Take, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you, mean it. Bye.
Thank you, Torri.
Wow, that was cute.
That was fun.
Yay.
Oh, my leg is asleep.
What other questions did you have?
Just in the outro, do you guys want to plug anything that you're working on or plug your agencies or plug anything that people
We don't
can-
need plug. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, they don't need PR when they are the publicists.
Yeah, I would just say all the stuff we talked about is a representation of how we integrate our digital thinking into traditional PR storytelling.
Love.
So at Faulhaber, it's called PAR PR. It's
Wow.
a trademarked offering where you get integrated full marketing mix.
I love that.
Pomp and Circumstance. I think our name speaks for ourselves. So I'm teasing. No.
Oh, I love that.
I think follow us at Pomp and Circ. There's so much going on at any moment's notice. And you'll be able to be in for a ride on our social because we're always
Up
literally
to
documenting
something.
everything.
Truly up to something.
But I think one thing that's a takeaway for our team is ruthless creativity and being insight driven. So I think anything you see we do, Pomp and Circ is known for our creative niche. So you'll always see that come through in any of our work on social and in the
At
campaigns
Bonus
we put out.
Track.
And Bonus Track.
Yeah.
We launched a new creative agency 3
Yeah,
years ago,
which
which
is
has been
amazing.
taking off like tremendously.
Wow.
Thank you, Meg, for the plug.
Listen, that's what friends do. Friends support friends.
And I was going to say that was one of the subjects I wanted to cover, which was the fact that, you guys are technically meant to be in competition, but then are so collaborative. And maybe we have to have these folks on for a part 2. So let us know. Okay. Love you.